Hi, Russ. Yeah, so the reason I'm calling is because I've sort of been in a nightmarish scenario with Synchrony. If you have my account pulled up, I can give you sort of a brief version of what has been going on.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
So I do have the account pulled up. What's happening?
Okay.
So you're going through that.
The dispute is the nightmare that has been going on. So I'll give you sort of the rundown. So what happened is late last December I purchased airline tickets, international flight, so me and my family can go on vacation, right? Or my family and I. And what happened is obviously because of COVID, I found out approximately a little bit less than a month before the departure date, which was the 18th of June, that the flight was canceled. This is by an international air carrier called Aeroflot, and this flight was flying out of Los Angeles International Airport. So they basically informed me that they're no longer flying because they've halted all flights from LAX. They offered me a voucher, or they offered me to move my flight to like December or something, after December, or something like that. I asked for a refund. They said they were not making refunds at the moment. So I went ahead and I filed a dispute based on that. I've had numerous trips planned, so I actually had to deal with this before, so I was familiar with the situation of filing the dispute. Upon filing the dispute, which was on the 21st, I was told that it usually takes anywhere from 30 to 60 days. Um, I did mention upon filing the dispute that if I have any questions, how do I communicate with the dispute team? And the representative said that the dispute team doesn't necessarily talk to a customer directly, but if I had any information, I could use the message center on my Synchrony account. And if you can access that, you will see that I've used that consistently about 4 or 5 times. One of which I sent over the Department of Transportation memo mandating air carriers to comply with um, customer requests for refunds. This would be a sort of supplementary evidence that I can demonstrate that I am owed a refund. And I continuously reached out just with information. When I found out that they were, I guess, managing refunds, but that it would take 3 years, I also reached out. Anyway, my point is, throughout this process, I reached out between the message and between communicating with an account manager at least 10 times, updating them with information that I was receiving, right? Providing them supplementary material. The only time that I received feedback, aside from the initial claim, was when they sent over a questionnaire to me and asked me to fill it out, which I did. I also attached a one-page letter explaining the situation, and I faxed it over through an Office Max here in Las Vegas. Not only did I fax it over, I also went ahead, scanned it, and sent it to them with the secure message, right? So as the 21st of July was approaching, I was calling about once a week, saying, hey, what's going on? Are there any updates? Each time the account manager was mentioning, no, there are no updates. It looks like it's going to be settled by the 21st. Although they didn't guarantee. To be fair, they never said 100%. They said it looks like, it's looking like, right? They gave me favorable language, but it was never definite language, and I do admit that. And what happened was, on one particular call, when I talked to an account manager, I said, well, in the event we go after the 21st of July, I don't receive a decision. What happens then? He advised me to call back and asked for an expedited for this to be expedited, um, for the process to be expedited. And when the 21st came, that's exactly what I did. I called. I talked to another account manager. I said, look, here's the situation. The 21st came. I have not heard anything from the Synchrony dispute team. I even said that, unfortunately, this communication has been one way, and I have numerous documentations. I reached out to them saying, hey, this is what I have. There's some updates. In fact, I believe it was early July, I received information from the air carrier that they were going to process the refund, but I had to wait 3 years. That they were processing refunds they were processing refunds for people with disabilities and World War II veterans. I kid you not. And I found that important, and thus I called, as soon as I heard about that, I called Synchrony and talked to the account manager and say, hey, I just found this out. Can you please, note this on the account, let the dispute team know that, they're willing to give me a refund only after 3 years. And I said, I hope the dispute team doesn't find that as within the confinement of a refund and saying, well, case closed, you're getting a refund, right? So anyway, my point is,
Right.
the larger picture here is I've been communicating with them nonstop. I've ensured that my channels of communication were always open, because the reason for this is because I've had to do this 3 times before with a Capital One, an FMBO, and an MX card, and I know how important it is to communicate information with the dispute team. In those cases, the dispute team directly communicated with me. Unfortunately, here that was not the case. So July 21st comes, I call, I ask for this matter to be expedited because that's what I was told. I talked to a account manager. She said she's going to expedite it. And after talking to her, after she said she was going to expedite, I said, look, I understand if it can take a month or two. I'm not complaining. Where's my money? Where's my money? Right? I just want to make sure that I'm in communication with the dispute team, that this gets settled eventually. And eventually, I'm willing to wait 1 to 2 months additionally. Okay. So fast forward to yesterday. Yesterday, I get an email dated on the 27th from Synchrony dispute team saying that, if I can just find that here 1 minute. I don't know if you have access to that letter. You might. Basically saying that they need some information from me, that I didn't provide it, and they're going to consider the matter closed. Right? So I'm basically in shock when I'm reading this letter. Actually, okay, so I have this letter pulled up. It's dated on the 22nd, said we have attempted to contact you to request information and or documentation critical to our research. To date, we have not received the information or documentation needed to resolve your inquiry. Since we have not received the response, we trust that your inquiry has been resolved. Anyway, I get this letter, I'm in shock because I'm like, wait a minute, I've never received any communication from you aside from the questionnaire. Not only that, I went out of my way to communicate with you and ask you to please respond to me. So I'm just completely shocked when I receive this letter. In fact, I categorize this letter as quite reckless. So what I do is I call Synchrony, I speak with the account manager, and I basically, what I'm telling you, I tell her this entire thing. And I said, I don't know where this letter is coming from. I don't know how serious is this letter, because again, I have everything documented. Whereas there's no documentation on their end that anything was sent to me that I didn't respond. So basically, I explained to her, I said, look, by documentation, I have both recordings, transcripts, and I also have the messages that I've reached out. And as you can see on your end, you see me reaching out. And again, I understand that this is policy, that Synchrony dispute team does not directly deal with the customer. That being said, I told the previous account manager that such a statement is premature and quite frankly reckless. I said there's no reason for them to say that they've reached out to me or to close the case. So what I said I would do is I told her that since it says I have 10 days to respond, I told her that I would go to my nearest Office Max and I would fax them this letter along with my response to this, my disagreement to this. Not only did I do that, I also, if you can see on my messages, I also, today, I uploaded both letters. Basically my response to this. Now, she said this is what she would do. According to her, she would close this case. She would reach out to the supervisor for the dispute team through email and ask them to look at this specifically to see what's going on. She said the response could take 1 to 2 business days. She said that unfortunately, I will not be able to see the response. It's an internal thing because the dispute team is internal. It just simply asked me to just call back until I get an update, a successful update. So again, maybe you can do something different. Maybe somehow you can transfer me to the dispute team. One thing I'm sure about, I'm sure, and I have the evidence to provide it, that I went out of my way to make sure that channels of communication were clear on my end. The slightest update I received, I provided to the dispute team. Supplementary evidence I had, I provided to the dispute team. Aside from the initial dispute letter, simply was, this we're initiating a dispute. The only notification I got from them was the questionnaire. Not once did they address my concerns. Not once did they respond. In fact, if you look at my online messages, the moment I send a message to them, it automatically triggers a response saying, we'll respond to you in 30 days, right? My earliest message I sent to them, was on the 14th of June. They have not responded anything. For example, on the 14th of June, I sent them a link to the Department of Transportation memo. This is a U.S. governing document that calls on air carriers to abide by their policies and issue refunds when customers elect to do so. I wanted to discuss this memo because in my previous journeys, specifically with Capital One, this memo ended up being what was essentially substantial and closed the case. Because in a previous issue I had, it was with a foreign air carrier, again, operating in the US, thus subject to US regulatory bodies, Qatar Airways. And they would not budge. So I had to go through Capital One, file the claim. It took some time. And then I said, I'm in the right. And they said, please provide proof why you're in the right. Aside from the fact that they canceled, I provided them this DOT memo. I said, look, the government has issued a pair of memos calling on air carriers to abide by their terms. And in the event when they cancel and the customer wants a refund, to issue a refund. Thus, since early June or since mid-June, I wanted to discuss this with them and saying, hey, is this something that you guys will need? Can you take this document and give it to the carrier? Do you see what I'm saying? I have not received any response from the dispute team aside from the questionnaire. The questionnaire was very generic. Again, I filled it out and I scanned it on my computer. It was simply, when did it happen? What's the amount? Have you contacted the carrier? Basically, it's just very simple questions. So for me to get a letter on the 27th yesterday saying that they've attempted to contact me is blatantly false. So where do I go from here? My question to you, sir.
Okay. So,
and I apologize for talking a lot. It's just been a headache.
I agree with you with the fact that one, you're going through a nightmare just trying to get this resolved in general. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very frustrating. Number two, I can see that you have communicated with us on a regular basis on multiple occasions, and I actually have that on my screen right now that I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first one that I actually see is June the 14th, exactly what you told me to do. Okay, so there's no question about that. There's no doubt about that. The letter that you received, all I can say is that it's obvious that letter was sent in error. That's all I can say on that. There's no ifs or ands or buts about it.
No, I know. Trust me. I thank you for being clear.
That part is enough to drive me over the edge too. I would get this be pushed over the edge personally if I'm dealing with the same situation as you are, where you have communicated on multiple occasions, and then to get a letter and says, we haven't heard anything.
Yeah. To me, it's a slap in the face. And again, thank you for agreeing with me. And again, I've been very professional about this. I think yesterday I just raised my voice a little. At no point was I out of line, because I understand that frontline people are not behind this. And my real disagreement is with the dispute team, who still does not reach out to me. And I understand that may be a procedure, but the fact that I reached out to them numerously, now we're entering this period, this time of irreconcilability. I say one thing, you say another thing. I mean, I would imagine a supervisor say, wait a minute, we need to reach out to this guy and say, what's going on? There's clear levels of asymmetrical communication. A letter has been sent. He's saying that he has all this proof that he's communicated with us. He's saying that he's never received some additional documentation that we requested. We need to reach out to this guy and see what is going on. Because I stated in my letter to the dispute team that I drafted today, I have evidence of these calls. Again, I'm not here to say, oh, I'm suing you. No, look, the reason I take this is because of stuff like this, because unfortunately, this is what happens. And I understand it's craziness right now. There's a pandemic, and this is why I told the previous account manager, look, if it's going to take an additional 1 to 2 months, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because I know I'm in the right. I have the DOT memo. I've dealt with this before with 3 other credit card issuing companies, and I don't expect Synchrony to reach a different decision, 100%, because this is not just the previous case, not the first case. This is the 4th case that I'm dealing with. So sorry to cut you off, but yeah, I mean, so where do I go from here?
So here's you
Yes.
talked with, and they did reach out to see if they can get somebody that's physically working on that dispute to address this issue. Now, I can't say what the outcome is that, just like what Maya told you, she can't see that, but I can see in here that clear documentation that she did reach out to that dispute department to see if we can get this addressed for you properly.
One more thing.
Very frustrating.
Yeah. One more thing I like to note,
yes, sir.
if you don't mind. Maya said yesterday she was unable to sort of see the letter they were talking about, but I guess she had some notes in the account saying that they reached out to me about wanting a pay slip or some slip, credit slip. Okay, mind you, I've never received anything. When I ended the call with Maya, I went back and I looked at the transcript of the call on the 21st. When I called on the 21st, it was the day of. I said if we could expedite the call or the process to the dispute team. The person said they were initiating this, and what I said is, well, what's the outcome? What usually happens? She said that, well, they're gonna reach out to you and they're gonna ask for a credit authorization slip or some proof of payment, right? This was on the 21st, so I'm wondering if what Maya said yesterday in her account was noted by the previous person on 21st. Because here's the thing. There's no way they had time if it was indeed on the 21st to reach out to me, because the 21st was a Tuesday. I filed on 21st, so they would have gone on 22nd, 23rd, 24th. They would have 3 days. Saturday, Sunday are not working, right? Monday they drafted the letter. So my point is again, if their excuses is, oh, we wanted a pay slip that we drafted, they couldn't have drafted after the 21st. Do you see what I'm saying or not?
No, I follow what you're saying, and I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in here that we have that we can address this with or help with at the moment, more than what Maya has done. Because everything that you're telling me up to now is, we'll just say 100% accurate from what I can see. Okay. So I'm not, and you're not disputing that part of it.
No.
That you physically have corresponded with us and that kind of stuff. The thing is, the frustrating part is when you receive a letter saying, we're going to close this because we haven't received a response from you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, in general, that happens a lot when literally when a customer doesn't respond in any way, shape, or form. And when I say that, I'm just talking about customers that they had a dispute and they have, and I'm just not saying in this case, it's a little bit different when you're talking airline, but they bought something at the store. Well, we need to see the receipt, or whatever, or that you returned it back, a tracking number. I'm just talking in general, right? We need, if you have that evidence, then if you would send it to us, that's going to go a long way in getting this resolved in your favor.
So,
in this case, you've done 100% of everything that you've been asked, actually 110%. So you've done your part. But as far as trying to figure out what happened with this piece of the equation, what they're doing right this minute, because you just called on the 28th, I don't have that answer for you yet, sir. I'm not going to tell you something I don't know. I'm not going to make a promise that I can't.
No, of course. I don't expect you to, sir. I don't expect you to. The only question that I have.
Yes, sir. What is?
Yeah. The only question I have is, so when Maya said they were going to respond to this, it might take a business or 2 days. Would anyone other than Maya have access to their response? Or do I have to catch Maya? Do you see what I'm saying?
No, it should be noted in your account. So, for example, every time you send us documentation, okay, that's supposed to be noted in your account. It's like a journal. We keep track of it. That should be noted in the account. And in fact, the letter that you received is actually noted in your account. Now, why they sent that letter, as I said, it should not have went out to you with all the documentation that we have, okay? But it's still noted in your account that that letter, went out.
Correct.
Okay? So in the follow-up, there should be additional documentation saying that they literally called you, or they literally sent you an email, or they literally sent you something.
Exactly. Like I said, there would have been some proof that something went out.
Right. So no, you do not need to speak just to Maya, or she's not the only one that would.
Because from my understanding, what Maya told me was that she would reach out to the supervisor, and then a response should take it. She basically said it would be a normal like business correspondence. So it should take 1 to 2 business days, a little bit more. But my point is, once they correspond back, you would be able to see this, right? Because, for example, I asked if I could see her email, and she's like, "This is internal." I said, if I could email that person that she's emailing, she's like, "No, this is internal." I said, "That's fine." I said, my concern is, would anyone other than Maya, for example, would you be able to see that they responded? Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because obviously I'm going to call tomorrow, just because this is, and the amount is $3,700, and I'm pretty sure that this is not a very unique case. I'm sure Synchrony is dealing with this just like every other credit card company is dealing with this. This is probably one of the most common disputes right now, right? Air carriers not refunding. In fact, it's so common that the Department of Transportation had to issue 2 memos, basically nodding their finger on air carriers saying, abide by your terms, right? So I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one asking for a refund for a flight that was canceled. Thus, I mean, this is why it was sort of weird to me. For example, if it was some uncommon dispute, I would understand. It's probably uncommon. They don't understand. But for some reason, when I received the letter, I was like, okay, this has to be a mistake, because again, I've done nothing but communicate. And if you have any questions about the actual transaction, I paid for it online. I mean, you could see it when I initially filed the dispute. They asked me what date was it. I told them if they could access the January statement, they would see the 3 transactions. So there was no questions other than the questionnaire that I received. So there was nothing they need. So anyway, going back to my question. So if, for example, if I call tomorrow, the next day, if there's an update from the dispute team, account manager will be able to see that, right? Basically, the response to Maya's concern.
Give me just a second. I'm sending a note to Maya right now, so hold on for a moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm still checking with Maya, and so what Maya is saying right at the moment is there's no response.
Okay.
Give me just a second, sure.
Thank you, sir.
So here's the deal. Yes, and on top of it, when you call back in, such as you're doing today, and you called other days, Maya may or may not be available.
Of course.
She may be the person that literally takes your call. Right? However, in either case, we can send an email to her or a message to her, such as I am right now. And as of right now, she's just saying, she told me that she has not got a response back yet. So,
okay. No, I'll try back tomorrow.
Go to Maya. So that the actual question that you did ask is because she sent an email. The response is literally going to go back to Maya.
Okay.
So, so that's where we're at.
I see.
We don't have that answer for you.
One final question, sir. One final question. So you see that where yesterday I sent them over a reply to that letter they sent me, right? Now, a further nightmare scenario would be that they would completely just close this case and disregard the fact that they say, if we do not receive a response from you within 10 days of this letter, the dispute will remain closed. So, I mean, I did send them within 10 days. Heck, I sent them like the very next hour. So I hope, again, here's
the deal. Let me explain to you. There's 2 different outcomes, okay?
Yeah.
One, the case could get closed because somebody hits the button and says it's closed, okay? We'll just say following that email, the original email that you got, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, the information that Maya sent over saying, hey, we need to look at this, so that should be updated, investigated, or upgraded, make sure that it's that they actually handle it properly. 2, the The worst case scenario is if it was closed, it's not closed permanently, that we can physically, I say reopen it, physically resubmit the dispute.
Mm-hmm.
We already have all the documentation physically in here. And then that worst case scenario would be, that it could take up to, another 30 to 60 days. However, I'm thinking with the information that I have sent, that we should get a response back before that. Okay?
Okay. I mean, again, as you rightly said, the communication has been very consistent with me. And I mean, it's unfortunate I'm getting this letter. It's extremely unfortunate. I mean,
Absolutely. I agree.
had I not communicated, I communicated once they could, but if they just checked to see what I've been communicating, this letter should have never been written. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Okay. All right. I'll check back later. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. You have a good day.
Mm-hmm. Likewise. Bye-bye now.